And then Frankie, just for you, I'm going to share my screen. All right, so starting us off today, we've got some outstanding project level RFCs. Let's take a look at what's here. Starting from the bottom, proposal to create a Paketo project programming style guide. Frankie, any update on this?
Yes, I added some changes to like pivot this to just propose the style guide and like initial implementation. So now it's looking for approvals and or further feedback. It'll end up being like a lot shorter of a document, I think, than I had originally anticipated.
Great. I think this Docker Hub distribution one is completely approved. I think it's just waiting to get merged. I'll handle that after this meeting. I think I said that last time, but this time I'll actually do it. Proposal for the Go HTTP function. I'm not sure if Matt's here today. Doesn't look like it. I think generally speaking, we're going to try to figure out what this looks like for 2021 roadmap, like where this fits in. But for right now, it's kind of just going to sit open. Dependency library RFC. Marty?
There were a couple of comments that from Emily that I responded to, but I responded to those a few hours ago, and it doesn't look like she had a chance to look at them yet. Other than that, it was just waiting for approval and resolution of those comments.
Cool. I'll take a look at some point today.
Thanks.
And then the last one here, I think this one is new to me. I'm not entirely sure. Frankie?
Oh, this is actually not an RFC. This is a PR to change the README in the RFC's repo. It's a very small change.
Cool. I'll see about getting that merged. Okay, so that covers outstanding project level RFCs. You can take a look at the language specific RFCs. I think there was only one, which is this PHP one that's still open. I don't think there's anything to say about this. Is that right, Tim or Arjun?
I don't believe there are any active threads of conversation happening there. So if anybody has more comments or otherwise, it's just the maintainer approval.
Cool. I think this is also on hold, trying to figure out where it fits in the roadmap for this year. Okay, then moving on to general agenda items. This morning, the Rails asset build pack was added to the Ruby build pack. This is cool for folks that are running Rails asset stuff. So if you know of anyone that's trying to build an app that's a Rails app that has an asset pipeline, feel free to tell them that the Ruby build pack now supports that. Let's see. This morning I started a discussion. So folks may not be familiar with this. Paketo Buildpacks now has this feedback repository, and in there is this new feature of GitHub called discussions. There's already an existing discussion about pushing Paketo Buildpacks to the CMB registry. I just added a discussion item for the 2021 roadmap, asking what should Paketo Buildpacks focus on in 2021. If folks have ideas for things that they think should be major themes or areas of focus for the Paketo Buildpacks, feel free to add comments to that discussion. We can start a conversation there. Let's see. I do know that coming up next, though, one of the major focuses is going to be this Python build pack. So there's an existing RFC to try to do the Python build pack rewrite. I wanted to just bring this to everyone's attention and figure out what is holding this up from getting merged. See if we could handle that maybe today. Does anyone know? Josh, maybe? Arjun?
Yeah, I was just waiting on whether or not we could get rid of pip from the pipenv install build pack, I think. Because I don't think that we need it, but it's still written down there as something that we want to have. So that's kind of what I was waiting for. So yeah.
Is someone actively working on figuring that out, or do we need to make sure that gets handled?
I can pick that back up. If I don't think anybody's actively working on it, but I can pick that up.
That would be great. Okay. Anything else to say about this? Any concerns anyone seen? Okay. Let's see, we've got change RSC's repo default branch from master to main. Forest. This is on my list of stuff, buddy. I'll do it.
Cool.
Yeah, not really sure what the impact. I think there are some open RSCs, but we'll see what happens when I change it and then delete the master branch. Probably have to like just reset their bases, what they're focused on.
Mm-hmm. If I remember correctly, I think GitHub like added a feature to do this.
To migrate?
Yeah, like recently. So it might be pretty easy now.
Cool. Let's see, next up, curl, teeny, Python 8 dependencies are available from the dep server.
Yeah, the first two are things, dependencies y'all had requested that we start building. So those are now available and we'll get updates. And PHP 8 with a ton of help from Dan Maguza, who essentially did all of it. We are now building that. So whenever y'all want to start consuming that, it's also available.
That should be PHP 8 in
that
the doc?
Should be PHP 8. Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries. I was wondering if Guido had just decided to skip versions 4 through 7.
Who needs them?
A reminder that there's a feedback form. I'm not really sure I know what the feedback form is, but there is one.
Sorry, this is me. I think right before everyone went on like Christmas break with the steering committee changes and stuff, we started this feedback form just to hear everyone's thoughts on things. There was only one response on there. I thought it was a really good question around how can someone work their way up from contributor to the steering committee? Not to put you on the spot, Ryan, but do you have any thoughts on that? Or if not, we can also like maybe talk about this next meeting.
I think that it's really just about establishing like a really strong track record of contribution across the project, taking on like a maintainership role or probably several across different sub-teams, and then really helping to drive kind of like overall direction and kind of like roadmap for the future. So thinking about how you could position yourself as a contributor to start to do those things, I think that would be like something that would make it you like qualify for a steering committee position.
Awesome, thanks. I think that's super helpful. Folks should still feel free to like add stuff in here. We can like periodically go through this every couple of weeks and just respond to stuff if there are any questions or things like that. But yeah.
Do steering committee members nominate non-steering committee people to do that role? Is there a formal process outlined around that?
Yeah, so the process is that the steering committee can nominate and promote others to join the steering committee, which is what Ben and Stephen did for myself and Emily, or are in the process currently of doing because it hasn't officially completed. We're waiting for feedback, obviously, from this form. But yeah, that's the process. I think it's outlined in the, where is that? The governance docs, which I think is just in the RFC's repo. governance here. Voting on role changes is like one of the responsibilities.
Makes sense.
All right. Anything that wasn't on the agenda that folks wanted to mention before we end?
I want to loop back to 2021 roadmap ideas. I would love to discuss a little more what we are looking. It's kind of been put out as like, here are, put ideas here, but I don't know like in what theme of ideas and like kind of what we're looking for in terms of roadmap and the granularity, or should it be big or small or something like that. So I'd love to just talk a little bit more about what we're looking for in terms of ideas.
I don't think anything is too big or too small. I think it's perfectly reasonable to say we should be focused on performance, which is maybe a really large kind of idea and spans across a whole number of possible things for build packs. And I think you could also put a roadmap item that's like, I think this specific build pack should have this specific feature. I think both of those are totally reasonable. As I would say, don't limit yourself. Feel free to put whatever you want. I think like the filtering portion will come later when we decide what is in the roadmap and what isn't, or how they're prioritized.
Is the plan to dedicate one of these working group meetings in the nearish future to hammering out a community roadmap?
It's probably a good idea. I think Kashyap and I should discuss a little bit more with Emily about how we could facilitate something like that.
Yeah, perhaps like next working group meeting, maybe we could circle back on this topic. In my head, I wasn't sure if we could get this done in an hour if we just have all these ideas down. But Ryan, we could chat with Emily, yeah, and figure this out.
Yeah, it's maybe worth having like an early pass for us to kind of pull up some of the bigger themes and ideas, and then have the hour meeting be about those particular things that get focused on. Okay, well, if there's nothing else, I'll let y'all go. Welcome to 2021. All right, see ya.
Thanks, bye.